Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Karateka. I'm probably going to pronounce this so wrong so many times. Is it Karateka? Karateka sounds like a sweet martial arts slash porno film. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. We're here with Karateka. This is Jordan Mechner. God, what is with the pronunciations in this video already? The creator of the original Prince of Persia's updated version of the game that he originally created for Amiga, I think it was. Basically, it's like a bite-sized type fighting game where you play as a martial artist, or someone who is proficient in martial arts at least, I'm not sure if they actually make their living from it, who is trying to rescue the love of their life, a princess, from a castle where she's being held by some kind of asshole warlord. They have taken things pretty literally in the update here, which is now available on Steam and has been available on Xbox Live Arcade and maybe PSN for at least 2 or 3 weeks now. But anyway, we're gonna get started here. This game has kind of an interesting setup to it in that there's no real, campaign. It's almost like an Isaac type game in that the game itself is only 20 to 40 minutes long, but you can play it over and over and over. There's a lot of replayability, but unfortunately, it lacks the randomness or the variety that makes those replayability, or that replayability, really that appealing. Anyway, we're gonna start here. It's gonna overwrite my autosave, which is not really a problem for me. And they're gonna do the story here. As you can tell, high quality voice work. High atop a craggy cliff, guarded by an army of fierce warriors, stands the fortress of the evil warlord Akuma. He is gonna do the Raging Demon. I could never do that super in Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. Anyway, deep within his palace, Akuma gloats over his lovely captive Mariko. 3 suitors set out to rescue her. The first is her true love, the second is a righteous monk, and the third is a loyal brute. Only one can succeed. This is the way of the Karateka. Now, Jordan, if you just want to send me 50 bucks, that would be awesome right now for doing that voice work for you. And we are going to have a little bit of a cutscene here, and this cutscene, as far as I know, is exactly the same every single time. But now that we've gotten out of the art, we can actually see the graphics of Karateka here. And I've played through this game once before, beat it entirely, and I'm still not sure how I really feel about the graphics. And there's sometimes when I think that they actually look quite nice, and then there's times when I think that they look sort of cheap. I guess I kind of feel the same about the graphics in this game that I feel about the graphics in The Walking Dead, in that I think they look old and outdated, and then they kind of try to take a stylistic angle to compensate for that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If The Walking Dead is any indication, great gameplay should cover up for that. But anyway, here is our... This is a time when I think the game actually looks pretty good. There's kind of a cel-shaded element to it here. Anyway, we're playing as the true love here. And basically, Karateka works kind of similar to Wipeout in that we are on basically a path here, and we can only control how fast we go. Apparently, we get the tutorial every single time, which seems crazy to me. But basically, the way that this works, if you watch my... I was gonna say Don't Starve, but that's not what it's called. Remember I did this Let's Look At of this cel-shaded, or not cel-shaded, FMV fighting game? I keep wanting to say Don't Starve. I think it's called Don't Something. Or Stay Hungry? Stay Dead, that was it, Stay Dead. So it's kind of similar to that in that we have all these bite-sized fights that basically boil down to QuickTime events. I'm using the 360 controller here. I have no idea how this game controls if you are using the PC. But basically, we're just going to continue here. Gain strength from Mariko's flowers. The control's fine with the Xbox 360 controller. Basically, we just get into a battle with somebody, and once we get into that battle, we hit B to block, and then after we've successfully blocked their attack or barrage of attacks, and those attacks do get more complex and damaging as we move along, then we have the chance to counterattack ourselves, which is when we are going to do our damage to the enemies. Obviously, Mariko's not doing so hot here. I kind of dig that the story is entirely told, apart from that opening, cutscene or stanza, I guess, is entirely told just through non-verbal cues, which I think is pretty interesting. Anyway, the start of the game starts out very easy. And I think it's super weird that even if you've played through the game before, it makes you do the tutorial. Or it tutorializes things that you get here. Oh, his butt's hurt. Okay. This guy teaches us how to block multiple attacks. And you gotta make sure you block at the right time. It seriously boggles my mind that there's still a tutorial here, considering I've already done through this game before. But anyway, you can see 2 important metrics of success in Karateka when you look at the UI here. There's my score, and then there's my time limit. Leaderboard position is determined, because this game is heavily based on score attacking. Leaderboard position is determined by both time limit, or the time that you complete the game, which again is 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how well you do, as well as your point total, which is mostly indicated by, let's just fight this guy first. It's mostly determined by whether you take a lot of damage during these fights, how you win the fights, and yeah, basically how perfect your blocking is. But if you have mostly perfect fights, it should be fairly easy for you to progress here. I just totally missed Mariko's flower, whatever. At the end of every fight, we get a bonus for, you know, sometimes what enemy we fought. If it's a boss, we get a bonus. Where we fought them, we can get a bonus for that. And what character we're using. Because the way this game does character selection, remember, there were three... Oh, that was bad. Remember, there were three characters they mentioned at the start there. There's the True Love, which is what we were playing as right now. There's the Monk, and then there's a Loyal Brute. Now, the way that you do character selection is not by choosing someone from the starting menu. You actually always start as the True Love. But the True Love is obviously righteous in his intentions. However, he is also fairly weak in comparison to some of the characters that come later. Oh, let's stun the enemy. Obviously, we have a chi meter, and then once we stun our enemy, we can just go to town with some special attacks. But yeah, the Monk and the Brute are progressively stronger and progressively more hardy with respect to their vitality. However, they don't give you the good ending to the game. So when you die, you actually die as the True Love, and then you respawn as the Monk. And if you die as the Monk, you respawn as the Brute. But each one gives you a progressively worse ending. The first time that I beat the game, which was the first time I played the game, I was playing as the Brute. So I died with the True Love at some point. I died with the Monk, and then I succeeded as the Brute, because the game does give you kind of a continue function. So we're just going to gain strength from Mariko's flowers here. This is basically how we get our HP back. Our HP is represented by that blue bar there, whereas the enemy's HP is obviously represented by that red bar there. And the kind of like weird Yoshi's egg looking thing is our chi, and when that gets up to full, we can unleash that attack. Now, I haven't talked too much about my overall impressions of Karateka so far. It's weird, because when I did the, yes, I realize my chi is full. When I did the Let's Look At of Stay Dead, I mentioned that I sort of liked the game, in spite of the fact that intellectually I knew that the game was pretty bad. Or at least didn't offer a whole lot of variety. I'm enjoying Karateka more than Stay Dead. I think the narrative element is really cool. I like how you respawn as like a different suitor each time, and the game kind of rewards multiple playthroughs. But there's just not a lot here. Like, considering this is going for 10 bucks right now, I think most people are really only going to get at most a couple of hours of gameplay out of this. And considering all the good stuff that's been released on Xbox Live Arcade, PSN, and Steam over the course of this year, Karateka seems like a weird choice. This is pretty much my favorite element of the game, though. Basically, there's this hawk that'll randomly attack us, and we block it, and then we either kick it or punch it in its stupid bird face. And we eventually do get a chance to kill it a little bit later. I'm not really sure how much I'm going to show in this video. I might just show off a whole playthrough of Karateka. That was awful. I love that animation. He's like, fuck, did I really just get hit in the face by a bird? But yeah, I might just show off basically one entire playthrough of Karateka just so you can see it. I mean, it's only going to be, like I said, at most 40 minutes long, so we might as well. And it's not like there's procedural generation or anything like this. Every single time we're going to be fighting exactly the same guys. And on one element, it's kind of cool that it lacks the variability element from Isaac, you know, like getting new items and stuff like that, or FTL, or any other games that you can probably guess that I'm going to mention at this point. It represents kind of a pure style of gameplay. On the other hand, it's a little bit too blah, you know? It's a little bit too easy, unless you really... It's a little bit too easy for my purposes, is what I mean to say there, because I'm not really interested in, you know, 100%ing this game at any point in my life, or score attacking it, or anything like that. I'm just interested in playing it and beating it, and for that, it's just really too goddamn easy to be able to succeed on the first try. Watch me be unable to succeed this time, but anyway. And I mean, again, there is a element of purity to the combat here, but there's also too much simplicity, unfortunately. The system is just too, like, simple. I'm trying to think of a synonym there. Too basic to really be that engaging, because essentially all you're doing is hitting B whenever the enemy attacks, and usually enemies telegraph their attacks quite well. There's no, like, substantial learning curve where you're gonna spend 20 minutes getting hit in the face until you learn the timing for blocking. If you see an enemy move his elbow or leg, just prepare yourself to hit the B button and mash it as many times as they continue to come at you, and you should be totally fine. But I mean, at the same time, there are elements of this game that I like, but I really, for the most part, could not possibly recommend this as a purchase, unless, of course, one of my friends brought up a good point on Twitter, which is basically, if you've got some nostalgia for the original, this is a very faithful, not adaptation, but successor to the sequel, or sorry, to the original. which may make up for the fact that the gameplay is incredibly simplistic. So if you have oh, I botched it and it hit me in the face again. If you have fond memories of playing Karateka when you were younger, it's possible this might be a satisfying experience for you. But for those of you who are, you know, like me, relatively unfamiliar with the series, it represents an unusual game. And a game that unfortunately, even though it is sort of interesting, wow, that was easy. Even though it is sort of interesting, I don't think really, you know, captures the imagination or really creates a compelling gameplay experience either. But, you know, kudos for being unusual in this day and age. A lot of people have been comparing this to Kung Fu Strike. I forget that was like the Warrior's Rise or something. And I guess they do have kind of similar aesthetics and sort of similar combat. I actually really disliked Kung Fu Strike, but I know there were people that actually enjoyed that. Like, I think Total Biscuit gave positive impressions to Kung Fu Strike. It was a game that came out on Steam and Xbox Live, I think. And maybe PSN as well. Again, my PSN knowledge is kind of weak, but similar price point, $10. But it's not so much of a like mano-a-mano fighting game. It's more of just kind of like a frantic beat 'em up. And I thought it was kind of like a generic beat 'em up. Everything takes place on the same stage. For whatever reason, I like Karateka more. I don't really think either of them are worth purchasing at full price. So if you're watching this and for some reason you're trying to decide between the two games because they look so similar, I urge you instead to perhaps pick up something else. So occasionally we do fight these enemies. As you can see, like, it's getting more and more complex. Like, the enemies will attack more and more often. But it's not like I have these patterns from the enemies memorized. The only thing is, I just hit B whenever I see that their arms move, and it makes it very, very easy. Although things will get more difficult as you move along here. 2 attacks is not the most that people will do. We will come across these enemies. You can see him occasionally, like, doing the Morpheus, like, I dare you to stop trying to hit me and hit me move. That does give us an opportunity to vary things up in that we don't have to wait for the enemy to strike before we strike. We're just gonna punch this dude in the face until he dies. And then continue moving onwards here, and the story will continue as well. Fat dude in a little coat. Sweet chains, man. I kind of like to think that maybe the rest of his shirt used to exist, but it had like a chain framework, and then he got caught in a house fire or something. I don't know. So, believe it or not, that was a boss. We're going to pick up Mariko's flower here, obviously. Every time I say Mariko, I want to say like, Mariko Suave. Anyway, we're going to fight this dude on this sweet stone bridge. There are like 4 or 5 stages of enemy difficulty, essentially. This guy, I think, attacks fast, but does a lot of damage. Unfortunately, he only attacks once, which is pretty bad for him because I had a perfect fight against him. And I'm hoping to get a little further than I got with the True Love last time. I probably won't be able to succeed, believe it or not, I probably won't be able to succeed with the True Love here, despite the fact that I'm doing quite well so far. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the comparisons to Infinity Blade that should probably appear here. It's a weird thing to bring up because there is the question of, you know, Infinity Blade came out, well, I don't know, something like 2008, 2009 maybe. It might have been 2010 even, but is there a flower here that I'm missing? Yes. So it's possible that Infinity Blade, which is a game that takes kind of similar mechanics where you just like get in one-on-one encounters like this, and if you die, you kind of respawn as a similar character in the same story, but not the same character. It's possible Infinity Blade took a lot of those elements from Karateka, so I'm not going to call this a ripoff of Infinity Blade, but I will say that if you're familiar with that game, the premise and concept of this one are going to seem pretty familiar immediately for yourself. Oh, I hear the hawk. Here we go. Oh, I blocked too early. This goddamn hawk, man. We will solve him. We will ruffle his feathers. Don't you worry about it. Alright, so things are getting a little bit tricky here. In that enemies have, I'm just gonna use my chi to kill him, because I haven't been using my chi like at all. I like this over-the-top kick that my guy can do as well. It just looks interesting. I think the animation, by and large, actually looks fairly good in this game, but, you know, that... This is what I mean when I say that things are getting a little bit trickier, because these guys have somewhat unusual patterns for attacking, and that's really how the game gets more and more difficult, and they mix things up. Is rather than just have enemies attack like bop 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 bop, they have them attack like bop 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 bop. Hopefully that made sense. It makes it a little bit harder to predict and increases the level of difficulty a little bit. Because when an enemy just does that, even if they do 20 attacks in a row, it's fairly easy to predict it. But when they alter the rhythm, that changes things up. Mostly, to be honest with you, like, I really think something that would have made this game better, and this might exist in the game, and maybe I'm just an idiot who doesn't realize it, but some kind of actual, like, combo system to discover, because as is, basically I just mash X, and that seems to work out fairly well for me so far. This is the dude I died against when I played as the True Love last time, so it's possible that I will be able to make some greater successes this time. And I did, actually I encountered like a game-breaking glitch when I fought his teacher the first time, which was unfortunate. Basically, it just made it, no matter what I pressed, I just like could not move forwards. Oh, that was bad on my part. But next time I block, I'll use a chi attack on him. How did I not block that one? Please don't die on this guy again. Here we go, we'll use the chi. I think this guy actually just gives up halfway through the fight, if I remember correctly. So all I gotta do, oh, that was a perfect block on my part. All I gotta do is get like halfway through the fight, I think, and I'll be okay. This guy does a lot of damage. Okay, maybe there is a combo system. Oh, I was blocking, but he managed to kill me anyway. So I don't know what's up with that, but this is kind of cool. I dig this element. Where basically you see like your existing hero get thrown off the edge, and then you see kind of a backstory related to the other characters who are, you know, all trying for Mariko's love. The backstory for the Brute is like, he's basically just carrying some sticks, and then he sees her in the street and is like, duh, Lump wants that. Anyway, as you will see here, the Monk is substantially stronger than the True Love, contains much more health, and I believe just does a lot more damage as well. I have no idea how. I guess I was taking damage from some of my blocks there, because it felt like I was blocking at least a few of those strikes that were coming in, especially like the last ones. I thought I was blocking for sure. Anyway, we can do substantially more damage with this Monk here. And if you look on the leaderboards, there's only like 2 guys right now who have beaten the game with True Love, and the rest of the top ones are predominantly with Monk, but occasionally with the Brute as well. So I'm just gonna punch this guy until he gives up, which should be fairly soon. Again, the unique fighting styles for all these guys, and I think they have good animations as well, but that's... I'm not saying that's a backhanded compliment, but what I am saying is that's genuine positive feedback, but that doesn't make the game, you know, that much more engaging for people. So this run is going basically exactly the same as the first run that I did. I thought, when I saw that for the first time, that the dude was just going to rip his beard off, which would have been pretty hardcore. This is the guy that when I beat him, it created like a game-breaking glitch, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. But we're getting actually fairly close to the end of the game here. Alright, so we're doing okay. Perfect fights on bosses are worth a lot of points. But then I just got karate chopped in the dick, so that's probably not going to pan out for me. And I could use our chi as well. Sometimes bosses do have like multi-stage elements where they respawn with like less health but more power. And new patterns, which is really the hardest part, of course. So I'm using my full chi attack here, mashing the Y button, kicking this dude in the face. Bring it on. And I believe that your beard is not real, my friend. Alright, that was a fairly good fight. This guy's gonna give up the ghost in a second. He'll probably give it an opportunity to come back, but I don't think he's actually gonna succeed here. So, I can't move. Are you kidding me? This is exactly the same thing happened again. I can bow over and over, but for whatever reason I can't move. This is exactly the same thing that happened to me the first time. We're gonna quit to the main menu. Watch this. So we'll quit to the main menu, go to resume game. And I feel like those tips are kind of unnecessary given that like the 3-minute learning curve of this game. And then when we load back in, I actually am able to move totally fine here. So I don't know what's up with that. I guess it's not a huge problem in the whole scheme of things. I totally missed a flower back there. But it is kind of frustrating that that happens over and over, and is apparently a reliably reproducible bug. At least on my machine. Again, these guys get sort of different patterns now, but it's much easier to win these fights as the Monk than it was as the True Love. So we're just going to continue onwards here. Now, when I beat the game, like I said, I beat it as the Brute. And Mariko was like, grateful, or she doesn't actually speak. The game's entirely told, or the story's entirely told through, like, text. It was like, Mariko is grateful for the loyalty and bravery of the Brute, but it wasn't really the true love that she was expecting. I was like, okay, fuck you too, lady. Just saved you from, like, Genghis Khan's castle here. And that's a thanks I get. So we're gonna do a sweet run here. Fight these guys. I mean, I'm probably gonna stop the video fairly soon. I was thinking we'd show off the whole thing. But now that we've still got like 10 minutes of just like basically repetition in front of us. Quite frankly, the game is just too repetitive to recommend. Even though I do enjoy it to a certain extent, it's impossible to recommend, like I said. So, I think this is going to be a good time for us to call it quits on the video. Let's quit back to the main menu here, and it will save my file. There's not really anything else to get here. I mean, there's leaderboards. So if you look at the top scores, oh, now 3 people have beaten it with True Love. You can see, I wasn't joking, the game is only, you know, between 20 minutes and 40 minutes long, depending on your skill, I guess, and your memorization. But in any case, this is Karateka. It's available basically on all digital distribution platforms, all the major ones anyway. And, you know, if you like what you see, it's possible that you might enjoy this, but at $10, it's a pretty tall ask. I think this is a mediocre game that has some positive elements, but it all depends on your perspective. You know, I liked Stay Dead a lot, and a lot of people thought I was crazy for that, so maybe I might think you're crazy for enjoying this game a great deal, but, you know, it's all personal preference, I suppose. So that's Karateka, 10 bucks. Covering this video right now, or covering this game right now because it's now available on Steam. But in any case, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.